Welcome back for the second segment of the February 2nd Trips and Traps. Andy Serling, Eric Donovan.
Three more races to bring you here in the second segment. Now we'll take a look at race number 9 from Saturday. And then once again, this is a day that we thought the inside was definitely the place to be. We'll take a look at the 5 VEE'S ACCOLADE, the 6 RAISON d'Etat, and the 8 GHAALEB.
Listen, GHAALEB runs very well. GHAALEB wins the race. Heady ride on Rain King there for Junior Alvarado. Back here are VEE'S ACCOLADE and RAISON d'Etat. Now, you know if RAISON d'Etat runs that I've got to show him on Trips and Traps, and maybe he's becoming that kind of horse, but it's not his fault that it was a super gold rail. VEE'S ACCOLADE, we'll get to him a little bit later. He doesn't do much running, but GHAALEB, who chases 3 wide the whole way and wins the race and runs well on a big day for Kieran McLaughlin, he's out there. 4 wide is RAISON d'Etat. VEE'S ACCOLADE is back here about 3.5 wide, and he goes the back of the pack. To me, the biggest problem for RAISON d'Etat, besides obviously being caught wide in the inside track, is he's never in a race where he seems to be able to settle comfortably behind a fair pace. Doesn't have to be a blazing pace, but it doesn't need to be so slow. And then he can sit back 5-6 lengths behind and put his run in a sort of orderly fashion. He's always moving up too soon. It just seems every race he runs, he's out of position.
Wasn't that one of the problems with betting closers sometimes?
It is, but he never gets the patient ride. He never gets to be in a position where he can get that patient ride. I don't know that I blame the rider. I don't know what Cornelio Velasquez was supposed to do. GHAALEB is still stalking, and RAISON d'Etat is out here. VEE'S ACCOLADE is all the way back there. I don't know, Eric. I think this horse, they've just been unlucky, to be honest with you. I really think, I know it sounds ridiculous. I'm not trying to make excuses for a horse that clearly I overrated, but I still think he's better than he's starting to appear now. And I think we're getting to the point where we're going to be able to cash a ticket on him at a square price.
So here he comes with a 3-wide chase coming into the 4-wide chase, actually. Yeah, there's another horse off the rail there coming into the top of the stretch. And we see VEE'S ACCOLADE to the back, and GHAALEB, running a game race here to win.
Now, some people are going to say, well, I mean, he was right off of GHAALEB. I mean, GHAALEB had an outside trip, too, and RAISON d'Etat was right there. But the race played into the strengths of GHAALEB because it was a race dominating the front end. So he was very comfortable with his position in the front, whereas RAISON d'Etat was doing something that is against the grain of the way he wants to run, at least in my opinion. So I'm going to excuse it again. Listen, if you think I'm crazy and you think I'm chasing a horse that I just won't admit I'm wrong about, that's fine. I got no problem with that. I think I'm right, and I don't, listen, you know me.
You always think you're right.
Well, I always think I'm right. That's because I always am right. But it's not, you know that I'll give up on horses, and sometimes I'll give up on them too soon. I'm not giving up on this horse. You want to give up on him, you're going to miss cashing next time, because he'll pay $860 next time, and you'll say, I can't believe I let RAISON d'Etat pay $860.
No, we'll see what happens. I'm very interested to see if he does get that kind of setup that you think he needs there. And, he obviously has races on the go back where he's certainly good enough and better than a lot of the horses he's running against. He obviously needs some kind of different scenario or, just needs to get a little bit better.
Yeah, or maybe he needs Belmont. Maybe a one-turn race at Belmont's better. I don't know. I sound like I'm grasping at straws. VEE'S ACCOLADE needs something. He may need some class relief and a turn back. Maybe 7 furlongs on the main track or Belmont for him. And you know what? GHAALEB's okay. I don't want him to get lost in the shuffle. He's an improving horse for Kieran McLaughlin.
He is indeed. For won 6 furlongs at the time before this and stretched out successfully to a mile here. So a horse that's got some ability in both spectrums. Yeah,
and he was wide enough that the fact that dynamics played in his favor, sort of they mitigate each other. And the other thing is, I just think he's a horse, unlike RAISON d'Etat, he won't be compromised because he has speed.
All right, let's move on to our second race now. We'll take a look at a couple races from Sunday's card. This is a maiden claiming race for New York breds. The 7 FIREBAY, a first-time starter for Linda Rice, and the 9 Stanley KOWALSKY.
Yes, tough break there for FIREBAY. So FIREBAY runs well, but also is on the rail later. Stanley KOWALSKY, he never sniffs the rail. Now, Stanley KOWALSKY's horses, both Eric and I were interested in a little bit in this race, and we knew the way the track, and we've got some discussion, and we'll talk about it during the race, how the track was playing worked against him. He has a little trouble early. He needs a rider change. I think he's a better horse than he looks. He's not that good, but maybe he could be competitive in a cheaper race like this with the right kind of trip and a different rider. Our discussion is how strong was the rail Sunday. I think the rail was as strong Sunday as it was Saturday. Eric doesn't necessarily agree.
Well, I don't agree because the winner of this race is the 3 tax return, who's going to make a 3-wide chase in the turn here. He's in 3rd right now, and I think with a gold rail, especially if it's as good as it was Saturday, a horse like tax return could never win this race in a big field, competitive field like this. I mean, chasing chasing 3 wide like this, you wouldn't expect him to do well.
Yeah, I hear you, and I'm not saying I totally disagree, but this is the speed horse, and I don't think much of this horse, and he got the lead. Dennis Carr, great ride, by the way. Here's FIREBAY making the move on the inside, and here's Stanley Kowalsky out in the middle of the racetrack. And the thing, to me, is also the way FIREBAY, who finishes third, made that huge run up the rail, makes me feel like the rail really carries him in the inside, carries him in this race. You disagree?
Yeah, I mean, I thought he was a little bit green early in the race, and he just kind of figured things out a little bit too. Look, I'm not saying the rail's a bad place to be.
Yeah.
Obviously, on the inner track, you want to try to save ground if you can, and as long as you don't put yourself in a position where you're going to get blocked behind horses. So obviously, always good to be on the inside. I just thought he was kind of goofy in the early stages of the race, and we'll take a look at the head-on, and he does have some trouble in here. I think he is a little bit green. Starts to figure it out a little bit in the final quarter mile or so.
Yeah, I mean, he stands in the gate, and then he gets sloughhed by the horse inside, and our horse Stanley comes over, and he bumps into the horse inside of him, and now FIREBAY is all the way on the outside. He'll eventually come in. The thing about it, though, look at Timothy's boy, who's a avowed quitter in 2 races for Bobby Barbera. Gets the lead, and not only does he hold, but he battles back on tax return, and maybe tax return just ran. I think he would have won much more easily. I get your point, and I realize that there are some ambiguous results. And you know what? There shouldn't be super ambiguous results when you're talking about a gold rail. So there is an argument both ways, and maybe this is one you have to see what happens when they come back. But when you're betting, you're going to have to make some decisions.
Yeah, I mean, there were a couple races that you could clearly say that there was evidence of it, and there were a couple races that you could say, well, how could it be a gold rail if, this horse won chasing 3 wide and stuff like that. So we'll have to see how these horses come back and run.
It was more clear-cut on Saturday, in my opinion, but I still think, and I think this last race we're going to show will give some more evidence about the rail.
Okay, we'll take a look at it. We'll look at the 12 Metrology, 8 NECAISE, and the 3 small town. The 3 small towns going to get severely interfered with here when the 4 breaks in at the start and unseats the rider.
Yeah, and luckily they were fine, and you'll see the 4 running later in the race, but you think of how much ground small town gave up. Here is NECAISE, who's a sprinter stretching out, who could have had the lead by himself, getting the absolute wrong ride. Here's poor Metrology, who was the co-favorite, mired down all the way on the outside, but NECAISE runs 4th in here. This is a mistake by Rod Ortiz, and a very good ride by Junior Alvarado, who really moves his game up all the time here. He secures that rail and doesn't give it up. If I'm riding NECAISE, I go into a full-out send, and I get that lead, because you don't want to be chasing too wide like he was. Now, you've got Metrology all the way out here. Small town does save ground on the rail, but considering what he gave up at the start, a good 4 lengths, I thought he made a decent run into this race.
Yeah, I agree, and I think, NECAISE's a horse that, needed to be a little bit more aggressively ridden from the start there. I mean, what chance did he have to win this race if he's not getting the lead here and chasing Hill Crossing, who went off the second choice in this race at 240 to 1, and you'll see the 12 horse, the favorite, Metrology, kind of move up into that, on a fair track. You would say this is a perfect trip for Metrology. We're still kind of debating what, how the track played on Sunday, but he's sitting behind 2 speeds here.
He should have gone to the rail. I don't know why he sat out in the middle of the racetrack. He should have just gone to the rail and assumed a comfortable position behind here, because he's supposed to know going into the race that these 2 horses are likely speeds, and the 8 figures to drop off towards the race. So if he drops in, it makes it better for him. But instead, NECAISE is chasing, and he keeps chasing 3 wide. Now you've got a 3-ride move by Small Town, getting himself in the race.
Yep, Small Town's going to run a heck of a race in here, and certainly, making this wide move and then having that trouble at the start. I mean, he runs a very nice race in here to be 5th. He's only beaten 8 lengths in here, and the first 2 horses really kind of the first 3 really pull away from everyone else in here. Take a look at it now.
Yeah, and you've got this horse moving up towards the inside, who ends up finishing 2nd. He's in the position that Metrology should have been. Metrology spun out here. He could have been right in there, splitting right now. Small Town's gone to the rail. NECAISE, who chased the whole way, going farther than he probably wants to go. I thought he held well. Now, maybe you could argue, well, maybe he's a reasonable example if the rail wasn't as gold as I'm suggesting it is. Because if it was, wouldn't NECAISE have finished worse in there? If you're right, then that's a valid point, and this is a fair argument. If I'm right about the rail, then NECAISE's a horse. If they turn him back next time, I'll be foaming at the mouth to bet him. I would love to see him in a 6-furlong race here next time.
Well, it'll be interesting to see how some of these results play out the next couple of times. We'll have to keep close eyes on who runs back early on out of these races on Sunday.
Yeah, and I think how you judge these rails is going to determine how well you do subsequently, and spend some time looking at Saturday and Sunday, where you need your help, trips, and traps at NYRAinc.com.
Thanks for watching.